if I was making this video around 4 months ago, maybe, people would have totally disagreed with the stuff that I'm about to talk about based on my opinion involving this stuff. But now I think a lot of the people that would have defended it are going to totally agree with me because this is absolutely diabolical. What they have done in Outriders has led them to the point of being around 100 concurrent players higher than Marvel's Avengers. Marvel's Avengers is a huge flop, and Outriders right now, around 4.5 months after release, is only pulling in roughly 100 players more than Avengers in a 24-hour window. So in this video, what we're doing, I'll leave them linked in the description, we're going through the patch notes, and I have to start off with how pathetic the social media is for this game, like the accounts. I'm not directing this at any people that work within the companies, it's just how it's been worded, all that sort of stuff. It's stupid. They put out a tweet on their Twitter saying it's finally happening, this is the day, or something like this. And that would have led people to believe there might be an announcement of a DLC, there might be something really good happening in the game. But all that meant was, we are releasing the patch that we've had to hold back for 3 weeks because we don't know how to fix a crash, or didn't know how to fix a crash when players were booting our game. They act as though they are excited to release this stuff to the public, then they release it, and I've said this so many times before, Avengers, when they release an update of some sort, they will typically get double to triple players, if not more, at least for 2 or 3 days. A lot of the time it's about a week until the players start dropping all over again. Outriders never increased at all. In fact, I've seen numbers on the Steam charts for them like completely off-peak times, but for them only having 600 or 700 players on the game on Steam. That is ridiculous for a game like this 4.5 months after release. You look at Borderlands 3, which is another looter shooter, and they're getting maybe 6,000 to 10,000 concurrent players in a 24-hour window. If it was possible to look at Division 2, I honestly think they've got at least 2,000 or 3,000 still. A lot of people were actually going back to the Division 2 because of how bad this game is. But what we're going to do is take a look at these patch notes. I'm going to try and brush over them because a lot of you will already know exactly what this is going to say. I said to Pete, I'm going to highlight the most important parts that I feel need to be spoken about. And yeah, I pretty much covered the entire thing. So I'm going to have to brush over this so the video is not half an hour long. We're going to start off the very top. This is all the patch notes, like the main important ones. So besides crash fixes, they've improved multiplayer, so the rubber band and the packet loss should now be reduced for players under 350 ms. That should have been in the game since launch. The anti-duplication system is no longer going to take your equipped items into account when checking whether to re-roll a dropped duplicate, so more duplicates are coming back into the game. They fixed an issue that could cause the Pyromancer's thermal bomb to lose all of its charges and enter full cooldown if a player was interrupted while casing the skill. They fixed an issue that could cause the Trickster's Hunt the Prey to not turn the player towards an enemy's back if aiming down sights immediately after activation. That one has been worked on for months. They resolved an issue with the Devastator's statue set and changed its description to match its behaviour. So some of these patch notes, out of the 11 they've done for fixes and things, one of them is changing a description. Then they fixed an issue whereby players who are level 50 could appear as level 1 while in a party. Note that this issue may still be visible when in the lobby. So they haven't even fully fixed it. This has only, showing the player level or the average item level has only just come into the game fairly recently, and they're already putting out fixes for it. Whereas other things that are important to the community, to the players, just get neglected. They get ignored. There are so many issues. Then the bottom of the patch notes fixed some out of sync subtitles. That is one of their really important fixes that they are incredibly happy with, to tweet out, this is the day. It's finally happening. And now we're going to move into the player buffs. And when I say player buffs, most of them are just the developers reducing the cooldown times on your skills. But after that we have some universal, being simply 6 armor mod buffs and 2 weapon mod buffs, and that is it. So there are 3 for each of the character classes. And I'm just going to brush through these. The ammo replenished by the bullet absorption mod has been increased to 40% from 33 for Feed the Flames on the Pyro. Volcanic rounds, the resistance debuff provided, like for a mod, has been increased to 50% from 34. Listen to this, how ridiculous this is. Because I want to state why this is so ridiculous. The developers sat there and put in an article, they were so excited for players to get their hands on this to test out the new build options. Just let that register in your head for a moment. New build options. Listen to this. The reload boost and lava shots mods have had their perks swapped. Reload boost will now increase anomaly power instead of firepower, and lava shots will now increase firepower instead of anomaly power. If there is a list of the most pathetic changes a developer could make for a game, this is up there. Swapping perks around. Because that is so important to the player. That is something that's really unbalanced. That is something that's incredibly broken. And all of that is sarcasm, by the way. This didn't need to be done. All you had to do in the game is if you wanted firepower, you would run reload boost. If you wanted anomaly power, you would run lava shots. But now, you have to switch those mods around. For Ash Blast, it's had its base skill cooldown reduced by a whole 4 seconds. And then the buff duration of the Death Sentence mod has been increased by 3 seconds from 5 to 8. For the Trickster Borrowed Time, they've reduced the cooldown of it by 5.5 seconds. Slow Trap has been reduced by 9.7 seconds. That's cooldown again. Time Rift, the cooldown again, has been reduced by 3.4. They've increased the DOT damage of the A Little Bit of Pain mod by 71%. They've condensed the duration of the A Little Bit of Pain mod to 6 seconds from 10. They've increased the armor and resistance debuff provided by the Time Crack mod to 35%. They've increased the weapon cleave damage provided by the Pain Transfer mod to 20% weapon damage, previously 10. Technomancer Pain Launcher reduced the base cooldown by 10 seconds. Scrapnel reduced the base cooldown by 5 seconds, increased the base damage by 19%. Cryo Turret, the Hail Shot mod, has had its SPF set to 1.5 from 1. For the Devastator, Boulder Dash, using it will now provide a significant 65% damage reduction during its animation. Players can now press the trigger again to use an AoE attack during the running animation. Endless Mass, enemies affected by it can now be damaged and killed during the animation. They've changed the Wide Horizons mod so that on top of the range increase, it would allow it to ignore the enemy skill absorbing skin that's used by Alpha Profiteroles and Broodmothers. Reflect Bullets, ending the skill early, will now refund a part of the cooldown up to 90%. I don't use any of those. They are the worst of the 6 available skills in my opinion. I run Earthquake, Golem, and Gravity Leap. The 3 they haven't touched are the 3 that I run. I believe for a lot of people, most of this stuff is going to be completely irrelevant, just purely because, for the Devastator at least, they are using, from what I believe, the way I play the game, they have buffed the worst 3 skills for the character class. Then moving on to armor mod buffs, Personal Space is going to have its damage bonus increased from 15 to 25%. Crit Stack will have its anomaly power boost increased by 21%. Stand Tall is going to have its firepower bonus increased by 20% and its base anomaly power by 16%. Perseverance Shield will have its base shield value increased by 40%. Note, this patch will also fix a bug whereby Perseverance Shield could trigger and grant shield after death. Then they've done another couple, I can't even be bothered, I've highlighted them but I still can't be bothered to read them out. Then moving on to the weapon mod buffs, Anomaly Enhancement will have its co-efficiency increased from 30% to 40%. Bone Shrapnel will have its damage increased by 5%. Then, if you remember, I said there are 11 fixes in their patch note list, 11 things. If you take a look at this, there are an extra 3 bullet points, but they are just explaining the new and the old description of the Devastator statue set. That's 11 separate things for the entire patch notes. There are over 50% more issues that are in their currently tracked issue list. There are 17 of them in total, And I'm going to read out these ones. State of Stadia. Stadia still needs to be brought in line with other platforms with regards to fixes, bug resolutions and crossplay support. They are continuing to do this work on aligning all the platforms, but they don't yet have a definite date for when this will be possible. They appreciate that it's taken longer than expected and do apologise. This should have been done from the very fucking launch of the game. Stadia, regardless of people using the platform a lot or not, they should have brought this in line with the others. There is no reason, 4.5 months later, over a third of a year later, there is no way it should still be really far behind. But I remember when the game came out, there were like 5 or 6 updates and Stadia had zilch. Absolutely nothing. Matchmaking privacy settings may set themselves to open without input from the player. It's being investigated and will be resolved in a future patch. Xbox problems related to signing in. Their latest patch significantly increased the sign-in times for the vast majority of players. However, some people appear to be affected by a second issue, which can cause them to do alternative account sign-in workarounds. They are investigating the matter. They're also in touch with a few affected users to investigate their accounts in order to identify the issue. So again, relying on the community to fix their own fucking game. They are again, they're in touch with users on Xbox to find out what this second issue actually is. They can't find out themselves. They need the community. Mods and resources may be lost. The issue appears to be quite rare and it makes it very hard for them to reproduce it and identify its cause. They've also added, for anyone affected by it, they recommend getting in touch with their support. The support that sends you generic messages that are copy-pasted and absolutely nothing gets done. This one I never knew about. Sprinting, with your sprint option set to hold instead of toggle, may cause the player character to drift to the side. It's being investigated. And then they finally paid attention to Scorched Lands, because they said entering the drained lake during the third enemy encounter can cause client players to stutter. What do you mean can? Does. Every single time you go into Scorched Lands, like I've said it to people like, oh, I've got no problem with this game at all, why are you being so negative towards it? I'd say to them all the time, go to Scorched Lands with someone else hosting and tell me you don't have a problem with the game when you get to that final pit. Because it's a guarantee. No matter who you are, no matter how you're playing, you're going to lag when you are the client and you're on Scorched Lands. That's across all platforms. That's a global issue. But what are they doing? It's currently being investigated. It will be resolved in a future patch. Certain enemies, especially alphas, may break out of frozen CC as soon as they are damaged. Investigated. I've already spoken to you guys before about the game stuttering when multiple crawlers are on screen. It actually fully crashes the game on PlayStation. But being investigated, resolved in a future patch. And that's if they don't break something in the meantime and delay that patch by 6 weeks. Certain mods not working properly or consistently, in particular when you're the client during multiplayer sessions. It's under review following multiplayer improvements, so they're waiting for more feedback on it. I mean, it's P2P servers, they're going to have issues whether they like it or not. They shouldn't have been stingy. Using the Tier 3 armor mod, Pain Transfer, with either the Tier 2 or the Tier 3 Damage Link mod, drastically reduces frame rate. Being investigated. Yeah, because none of this stuff they actually know how to fix. They're again relying on player feedback in order to get this stuff. What is it they say? They need to reproduce it. But yeah, if you're running Tier 3 Pain Transfer and you're running either Tier 2 or Tier 3 Damage Link, you're going to drop frames. But another thing, they haven't specified which platform that's happening on. They've just put that there as a known issue. This one is pathetic, it's ridiculous, it's stupid, whatever you want to call it. Tricksters may be unable to revive others or be revived themselves in multiplayer if they are using borrowed time in expeditions. It's being investigated. Technomancer's Plague Sower does not consistently apply its bonus. Investigating. Technomancer turrets may fall through the ground. Being investigated. But. There are a few different causes for this one, including map-specific areas, mountain outpost, as well as circumstance-specific, such as aiming too closely at your own feet. So if you aim your little turret with your Technomancer, you aim that at your feet, it has a chance to drop through the ground, and it will disappear, and you'll have to wait for the cooldown all over again. So heads up for the Technos out there, don't aim it at your feet, because you're going to fucking lose it. They don't know how to code it so that it doesn't drop through the floor when you aim it at your feet. You have to aim it up in the air and yeet it all the time. Again, journal entries and pickups not appearing on secondary characters being re-investigated. Damage blocked stat on expedition results screen occasionally appears inconsistently or abnormally low, being investigated. And a cutscene during the mentor questline may not trigger, meaning players cannot progress past this point. What is it? Being investigated. There is a temporary workaround though. In your lobby, change your story checkpoint to an earlier one, then go back through the earlier one, complete that one, then go back to the mentor, try that one again. So that when you try it the second time round, it's going to happen again. You're not going to get that progression blocker, but they just drag it out because they want players to keep trying. And if that's the case, they'll do a couple of tweaks and possibly fix it. I mean, you never know. A progression blocker in their story 4.5 months after release at a £60 title, no, shouldn't be happening at all. The fact that what's really rattled my cage is the fact that they put out a tweet specifically saying, this is the day, it's finally happening. But what makes that even worse? They were working on this patch for however long. It took them 3 weeks not to work on the patch, but 3 weeks to release it after they were supposed to. So 3 weeks behind schedule, delayed, because of a crashing issue within the game. That's the only reason people have had to wait so long for this patch. What happens? Because they've had so much time. They release it and Xbox have to wait at least a couple of hours after because they didn't have enough space and they didn't get past the update clearance with the security through Microsoft and everything. So the Xbox update couldn't come out at the same time. I don't know how you're able to do that. And another thing is, you heard the cooldown reductions. There's like 10 seconds knocked off a couple of them. This is a 4.5 month old game, as I've said several times. They stated that they have a team that will work on fixes and things like that, and a separate team that works on the balancing. The team that works on the if that's even true, the team that works on the balancing, why has it taken them so long to realise that the cooldowns take the absolute piss and need to be reduced by that much? A 10-second reduction on a cooldown means that it was drastically unbalanced, incredibly unbalanced, and it took them that long to sort that out. I really don't know what it is at this stage. There's been a few times I've said it's the developers at fault because they don't actually know what they're doing. There's been a couple of times I've said it's all the higher ups and they're pushing things to be rushed out and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know. I think the whole company is just completely screwed. Like, I don't think any of them know what they're actually doing. Like, why is it taking this long to release patches that don't have good stuff in? Like, how can you sit there and have a major crashing issue that makes you delay a patch by 3 weeks and then get excited to release it? 3 weeks ago, get excited to release it. When you've had to delay your own work, don't go fucking getting excited. Oh, today's the day, it's finally happening. It should have happened a long time ago. This is a game they've created. They should know the ins and outs of the code. They've built the code from the ground up and they still don't know how to work with it. I actually don't think there are any original developers of this game working on this game anymore. I think they have a B team, a skeleton team, some interns, whichever way you want to phrase it. I think they've got some shitty second-hand team in there working on this stuff because they've got their main developers working on their new releases, their upcoming releases for in a couple of years' time. That's how I think it's going. That's my personal opinion. But I did say I don't want the video to be half an hour long. It's still a fairly long one. I did try brushing through it, but you guys know I'm very opinionated, got an incredibly strong opinion, and I had to put it out there. But yeah, that's the patch notes, as I said, linked in the description if you want to check them out. And what we're going to do is leave that there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.